She did not know me, for I was only a stripling, and her life had been large, so she had no time to remember the one who had paid for her an untold price. So you brought me from my terms of service. I went back to bring things about in my own way, for I had waited long, and now I had my hand upon him, and was no and now that I had my hand upon him was in no hurry. As I say, I had it in mind to do it my own way, for I'd read back in my life, through all I'd seen and suffered, and remembered the cold and hunger of the endless forest by the Russian seas. As you know, I led him into the east, him and Unga, into the east where many have gone and few returned. I led them to the spot where the bones and the curses of men lie with the gold which they may not have. The way was long, and the trail unpacked. Our dogs were many and ate much, nor could our sleds carry till the break of spring. We must come back before the river ran free, so here and there we cached grub, that our sleds might be lightened, and there be no chance of famine on the back trip. At the McQuestion there were 3 men, and near them we built a cache, as also did we at the Mayo, where was a hunting camp of 12 pellies, which had crossed the divide from the south. After that, as we went on into the east, we saw no men, only the sleeping river, the moveless forest, and the white silence of the north. As I say, the way was long, and the trail unpacked. Sometimes, in a day's toil, we made no more than 8 miles or 10, and at night we slept like dead men. And never once did they dream that I was Nas, head of the Akatan, the righter of wrongs. We now made smaller caches, and in the night time it was a small matter to go back on the trail we had broken and change them in such a way that one might deem the wolverines the thieves. Again, there be places where there is a fall to the river, and the water is unruly, and the ice makes above and is eaten away beneath. In such a spot the sled I drove broke through, and the dogs, and to him and Unga it was ill luck, but no more. And there was much grub on that sled, and the dogs the strongest. But he laughed, for he was strong of life, and gave the dogs that were left little grub till we cut them from the harnesses one by one, and fed them to their mates. We could go home light, he said, travelling and eating from cache to cache, and neither dogs nor sleds, which was true, for our grub was very short, and the last dog died in the traces the night we came to the gold, and the bones and the curses of men. To reach that place, and the map spoke true, in the heart of the great mountains, we cut ice steps against the wall of a divide. One looked for a valley beyond, but there was no valley. The snow spread away, level as the great harvest plains, and here and there about us mighty mountains shoved their white heads among the stars. And midway on that strange plain which should have been a valley, the earth and the snow fell away, straight down towards the heart of the world. Had we not been sailor men, our heads would have been swung around with the sight, but we stood on the dizzy edge that we might see a way to get down. And on one side only, the wall had fallen away till it was like the slopes of the deck in a topsail breeze. I do not know why this thing should be so, but it was so. It is the mouth of hell, he said. Let us go down. And we went down. And on the bottom there was a cabin, built by some man, of logs which he had cast down from above. It was a very old cabin, for men had died there alone at different times, and on pieces of birch bark there we read their last words and their curses. One had died of scurvy, another's partner had robbed him of his last grub and powder and stolen away, a third had been mauled by a bald-faced grizzly, a fourth had hunted for game and starved, and so it went, and they had been loath to leave the gold, and had died by the side of it, one way or another. The other worthless gold they had gathered yellowed the floor of the cabin like in a dream. But his soul was steady, and his head clear, this man I had led thus far. We have nothing to eat, he said, and we will only look upon this gold and see whence it comes and how much there be. Then we will go away quick, before it gets into our eyes and steals away our judgment. And in this way we may return in the end with more grub and possess it all. So we looked upon the great vein, which cut the wall of the pit as true a vein should, and we measured it and traced it from above and below, and drove the stakes of the claims, and blazed the tree in token of our rights. Then, our knees shaking with lack of food, and a sickness in our bellies, and our hearts chugging close to our mouths, we climbed the mighty wall for the last time, and turned our faces to the back trip. The last stretch we dragged Unga between us, and we fell often, but in the end we made the cache, and lo, there was no grub. It was well done, for he thought it the Wolverines, and damned them and his gods in one breath. But Unga was brave, and smiled, and put her hand in his, till I turned away that I might hold myself. We will rest by the fire, she said, till morning, and we will gather strength from our moccasins. So we cut the tops of our moccasins in strips, and boiled them half the night, that we might chew them and swallow them. And in the morning we talked of our chance. The next cache was 5 days' journey. We could not make it. We must find game. We will go forth and hunt, he said. Yes, I said, we will go forth and hunt. And he ruled that Unga stay by the fire and save her strength. And we went forth, he in quest of the moose, and I to the cache I had changed. But I ate little, so they might not see in me much strength. And in the night he fell many times as he drew into camp. And I, too, made to suffer great weakness, stumbling over my snowshoes, as though each step might be my last. And we gathered strength from our moccasins. He was a great man. His soul lifted his body to the last. Nor did he cry aloud, save for the sake of Unga. On the second day I followed him, that I might not miss the end. And he lay down to rest often. That night he was near gone. But in the morning he swore weakly and went forth again. He was like a drunken man, and I looked many times for him to give up. But his was the strength of the strong, and his soul the soul of a giant. For he lifted his body through all the weary day, and he shot 2 pantagarmen, but would not eat them. He needed no fire. They meant life, but his thought was for Unga, and he turned towards camp. He no longer walked, but crawled on hand and knee through the snow. I came to him and read death in his eyes. Even then it was not too late to eat of the partomagan. He cast away his rifle and carried the birds in his mouth like a dog. I walked by his side, upright, and he looked at me during the moment he rested, and wondered that I was so strong. I could see it, though he no longer spoke. When his lips moved, they moved without sound. As I say, he was a great man, and my heart spoke for softness, but I read back in my life and remembered the cold and hunger of the endless forest by the Russian seas. Besides, Unga was mine, and I had paid for her an untold price of skin and boat and bead. And in this manner we came through the white forest, with the silence heavy upon us like a damp sea mist, and the ghosts of the past were in the air and all about us, and I saw the yellow beach of Akatan, and the kayaks racing home from the fishing, and the houses on the rim of the forest, and the men who had made themselves chiefs were there, the lawgivers whose blood I bore and whose blood I had wedded in Unga. I and Yashnush walked with me, the wet sand in his hair, and his war spear broken as he fell upon it, still in his hand. And I knew the time was meet, and I saw in the eyes of Unga the promise. As I say, we came thus through the forest, till the smell of the camp smoke was in our nostrils, and I bent above him and tore the partabagan from his teeth. He turned on his side and rested, the wonder mounting in his eyes, and the hand which was under slipping slow towards the knife at his hip. But I took it from him, smiling close in his face. Even then he did not understand. So I made to drink from the black bottles, and to build high upon the pile of snow, of goods, and to live again the things which had happened on the night of my marriage. I spoke no word, but he understood. Yet he was unafraid. There was a sneer at his lips, and cold anger, and he gathered new strength with the knowledge. It was not far, but the snow was deep, and he dragged himself, very slow. Once he lay so long, I turned him over and gazed into his eyes, and sometimes he looked forth, and sometimes death. Sometimes he looked forth, and sometimes death. And when I loosed him, he struggled on again. In this way we came to the fire. Unga was at his side on the instant. His lips moved without sound. Then he pointed at me, that Unga might understand. And after that he lay in the snow, very still for a long while. Even now he is there in the snow. I said no word till I had cooked the partabagan. Then I spoke to her in her own tongue, which she had not heard in many years. She straightened herself so, and her eyes were wonder-wide, and she asked who I was, and where I had learned that speech. I am Nrth, I said. You? She said. You? And she crept close that she might look upon me. Yes, I answered. I am Nrth, head man of Akatan, the last of the blood, as you are the last of the blood. And she laughed. By all the things I have seen and the deeds I have done, may I never hear such a laugh again. It put the chill to my soul, sitting there in the white silence, alone with death and this woman who laughed. Come, I said, for I thought she wandered. Eat of the food and let us be gone. It is a far fetch from here to Akatan. But she shoved her face in his yellow mane and laughed till it seemed the heavens must fall about our ears. I thought she would be overjoyed at the sight of me, and eager to get back to the memory of old times. But this seemed a strange form to take. Come, I cried, taking her strong by the hand. The way is long and dark. Let us hurry. Where? She asked, sitting up and ceasing from her strange mirth. To Akatan, I answered, intent on the light to grow on her face at the thought. But it became like his, with a sneer to the lips, in cold anger. Yes, she said, we will go hand in hand to Akatan, you and we will live in the dirty huts and eat of the fish and oil and bring forth a spawn to be proud of all the days of our life. We will forget the world and be happy, very happy. It is good, most good. Come, let us hurry. Let us go back to Akatan. And she ran her hand through his yellow hair and smiled in a way which was not good, and there was no promise in her eyes. I sat silent and marveled at the strangeness of the woman. I went back to the night when he dragged her from me, and she screamed and tore at his hair which she now played with and would not leave. Then I remembered the price and the long years of waiting, and I gripped her close and dragged her away as he had done, and she held back, even as on that night, and fought like a she-cat for its whelp. And when the fire was between us and the man, I loosed her, and she sat and listened, and I told her of all that lay between, of all that had happened to me on strange seas, of all that I had done in strange lands, of my weary quest, and the hungry years, and the promise which had been mine from the first. I told all, even to what had passed that day between the man and me, and in the days yet young. And as I spoke, I saw the promise grow in her eyes, full and large like the break of dawn, and I read pity there, the tenderness of woman, the love, the heart, the soul of Unga. And I was a stripling again, for the look was the look of Unga as she ran up the beach, laughing, to the home of her mother. The stern unrest was gone, and the hunger, and the weary waiting. The time was met. I felt the call of her breast, and it seemed that I must pillow my head and forget. She opened her arms to me, and I came against her. Then, sudden, the hate flamed in her eyes. Her hand was at my hip. Once, twice, she passed the knife. Dog, she sneered, as she flung me into the snow. Swine! And then she laughed till the silence cracked, and went back to her dead. As I say, once she passed the knife, and twice, but she was weak with hunger, and it was not meant that I should die. Yet I was minded to stay in that place, and to close my eyes in the last long sleep, with those whose lives had crossed with mine, and led my feet on unknown trails. But there lay a debt upon me, which would not let me rest. And the way was long, the cold bitter. There was little grub. The pellies had found no moose, and had robbed my cache. and so had the 3 white men, but they lay thin and dead in their cabin as I passed. After that I do not remember, till I came here and found food and fire, much fire. As he finished, he crouched closely, even jealously, over the stove. For a long while the slush lamp shadows played tragedies upon the wall. "But Unga!" cried Prince, the vision still strong upon him. Unga? She would not eat of the ptarmigan. She lay with her arms about his neck, her face deep in his yellow hair. I drew the fire close, that she might not feel the frost, but she crept to the other side, and I built a fire there. Yet it was little good, for she would not eat, and in this manner they still lie up there in the snow. "And you?" asked Malamute Kid. "I do not know, but Akatan is small, and I have little wish to go back and live on the edge of the world. Yet is there small use in life. I can go to Constantine, and he will put irons upon me, and one day they will tie a piece of rope, so, and I will sleep good. Yet, no, I do not know." "But, Kid," protested Prince, "this is murder." "Hush," commanded Malamute Kid. "There be things greater than our wisdom, beyond our justice. The right and the wrong of this we cannot say, and it is not for us to judge." Nas drew yet closer to the fire. There was a great silence, and in each man's eyes many pictures came and went. The end of An Odyssey of the North, and end of the Son of a Wolf collection by Jack London. More videos later.